The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast hall. Representatives from 47 different species filed in, their faces showing worry and confusion. The emergency session had been called with only 6 hours' notice, something that had not happened in over 3 centuries. Admiral Zexathera stood at the center podium, her forearms crossed behind her back as she waited for the chamber to fill. The hegemony's top military commander was known for her calm demeanor, but today her usual blue skin had taken on a pale gray tint. The holographic displays around her showed star maps dotted with red warning markers. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "We face a crisis unlike any in recorded history. 6 months ago, we began receiving reports of unknown vessels operating in the Outer Rim territories. At first, we dismissed these as pirate activities or rogue military units. The displays changed to show grainy surveillance footage. Ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before moved across the screen. Their design was crude by galactic standards, with thick armor plating and simple geometric shapes. Yet they moved with a grace that defied their appearance. These vessels," Zexathara continued, "have been systematically destroying pirate bases, liberating slave camps, and eliminating rogue military installations across 12 sectors. The efficiency is unprecedented. In 6 months, they have accomplished what our combined fleets have failed to do in 6 years. A murmur ran through the assembly. Councillor Vex of the Trade Federation raised one of his 6 hands. "Admiral, surely you are not suggesting that these primitive ships pose a threat to established military powers?" Zexathara's expression darkened. "Councillor Vex, I suggest you watch this footage carefully." The display showed a battle scene. 3 massive Korvaxi battleships, each the size of a small city, surrounded a single human vessel. The human ship was barely 1/10 their size. What happened next made several delegates gasp in surprise. The human ship simply vanished, not into hyperspace or through any visible means of faster-than-light travel. It simply stopped existing in one place and appeared behind the Korvaxi formation. The weapons that fired from it were unlike anything in their databases. Beams of pure energy that seemed to bend space itself struck the Korvaxi ships with surgical precision. Within minutes, all 3 battleships were disabled. Their weapons were destroyed, their engines dead, but their life support systems remained intact. The human ship then broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Pirate activity terminated. Prisoners will be transferred to appropriate authorities." The Korvaxi survivors, Zexathara explained, reported that they never detected the human ship approaching. Their sensors showed empty space until the moment it fired. More disturbing, they could not identify the weapon signatures. "The technology appears to be completely unknown." Dr. Yelani of the Science Collective stood up, her tentacles waving in agitation. "This is impossible. We have monitored Earth's technological development for over a century. They have barely mastered basic fusion drives. How could they develop such advanced stealth and weapons technology?" The Admiral gestured to another display showing a timeline. "That is exactly the question we have been investigating. According to our records, human space presence has been minimal and largely peaceful. Small exploration vessels, a few mining operations, some research stations. Nothing that would suggest military capability of this scale." The timeline showed dozens of incidents across the past 6 months. Human ships appearing without warning to break up conflicts, rescue civilians from disaster zones, and eliminate threats that had plagued the outer territories for decades. In every case, the ships operated with perfect coordination despite being separated by vast distances. "The most troubling aspect," Zexathara said, calling up another set of data, "is the coordination. These ships appear simultaneously across multiple star systems, not sequentially as would be expected if they were using conventional faster-than-light communication. They act as one mind across impossible distances." Councillor Brath of the Merchant Guild leaned forward. "Have there been any attempts at communication? Perhaps these humans would be willing to share their technology." A bitter laugh escaped from the Admiral. "We have tried. The ships respond to direct communication, but only with operational updates. Pirate base neutralized. Civilian evacuation complete. Area secured. Nothing more. They refuse all requests for meetings or negotiations." The chamber fell silent as delegates processed this information. Finally, Elder Morix of the Ancient Assembly spoke. His voice carried the weight of his species' long history. Admiral, you called this an emergency session. Are you suggesting these humans pose a direct threat to our civilizations? Zexthara hesitated for a moment before answering. Honored Elder, I am suggesting something far more concerning. Our intelligence suggests that everything we thought we knew about humanity is wrong. These are not the primitive newcomers we believed them to be. She activated another display showing force projection calculations. Based on observed capabilities, these human vessels could defeat any single fleet in our combined forces. Their stealth technology makes them effectively undetectable. Their weapons can disable our most advanced ships without destroying them, suggesting precise control we cannot match. The implications hung heavy in the air. If humanity possessed such overwhelming technological superiority, why had they remained hidden? Why were they only now revealing themselves? There is one more thing, the Admiral said quietly. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures from the direction of Earth's solar system. Whatever the humans are doing there, it requires more power than most civilizations use in a year. Counselor Vex stood again, his voice shaking slightly. What do you recommend, Admiral? Zexthara looked around the chamber at the worried faces of the galaxy's most powerful representatives. Honored delegates, I recommend we prepare for the possibility that humanity is not the minor species we believe them to be. These ghost fleet operations may be only a small demonstration of their true capabilities. The weight of her words settled over the assembly. For the first time in galactic history, the major powers faced a complete unknown, a species that had somehow developed overwhelming military superiority, while appearing to be nothing more than curious explorers. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out, many of them were already sending urgent messages to their home governments. Fleet positions were quietly being repositioned. Defense budgets were being emergency reviewed. The galaxy's balance of power, stable for centuries, suddenly felt very fragile. In the command center of a hegemony monitoring station, technicians watched their long-range sensors with growing concern. The energy signatures from Earth's system were growing stronger. Whatever the humans were building or powering up, it was reaching levels that their instruments could barely measure. Nobody knew that in a few days those energy signatures would suddenly stop. The ghost fleet would simply vanish from existence, and the galaxy would discover that their problems with humanity were just beginning. The emergency session ended with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear to everyone present. The universe had just become a much more dangerous and unpredictable place. The humans were coming and nobody knew what they really wanted. The battle for the Kepler mining station was reaching its peak when everything changed. Admiral Corax of the Corvaxi raiding fleet watched from his command bridge as his 12 heavy cruisers surrounded the mineral-rich asteroid. The mining operation had been generating enormous profits for the past 2 years, and he intended to claim it for his people. His tactical display showed the expected resistance: automated defense platforms, a few security vessels, and the usual civilian evacuation ships. What he had not expected was the sudden appearance of 3 human ships dropping out of stealth directly between his fleet and the mining station. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "the human vessels are powering up their weapon systems. They are broadcasting a warning for us to withdraw immediately." Corax laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. 3 ships against 12? These humans have grown bold since their recent victories against pirates. Show them the price of arrogance. The Corvaxi fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes filled the space between the two forces with deadly energy. The human ships moved through the barrage like dancers, their movements precise and coordinated. Return fire came in the form of those strange energy beams that bent space itself. Within minutes, 2 of Corax's cruisers were disabled, their weapons destroyed, but their crews unharmed. The 3rd human ship was moving to engage his flagship when something impossible happened. All 3 human vessels stopped moving. Their engines powered down, their weapons went silent. Across all communication frequencies, the same message began broadcasting in every known language. Contract complete. Payment collected. Returning to sender. Corax stared at his tactical display in confusion. What are they doing? Why have they stopped fighting? His sensor officer looked up from her station with bewilderment. Sir, they are not retreating. They are not jumping to hyperspace. They are simply moving away from us at standard impulse speed. The human ships turned away from the battle and began moving toward empty space, not toward any star system or known hyperspace lane, just toward the dark void between the stars. As they moved, something even stranger began to happen. The ships started to fade. Not like they were activating stealth systems or cloaking devices. They were becoming transparent, as if they were slowly ceasing to exist. Within 10 minutes, they had vanished completely from all sensors. Corax found himself in possession of the mining station he had come to raid, but the victory felt hollow. His crew stared at their instruments in shocked silence. The humans had simply left. Not defeated, not retreating, just gone. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. In the Vega system, a human flotilla that had been protecting a refugee convoy suddenly powered down and departed mid-escort. The convoy was left vulnerable to raiders who had been waiting for their chance to strike. On the edge of hegemony space, human ships that had been maintaining a blockade of a known pirate stronghold simply announced, "Shift complete," and vanished. The pirates, who had been trapped for weeks, found themselves free to resume their activities. At the Galactic Council monitoring station, alarms began sounding as reports flooded in from across known space. Every human vessel, from the massive ships of the Ghost Fleet to small exploration craft, was either powering down or simply disappearing. Commander Erix rushed into the main control room where dozens of technicians were frantically trying to track what was happening. "Report," he barked. "Sir," his chief operator responded, "we are receiving stand-down signals from every human vessel in our database. They are all broadcasting the same message. Contract complete. Payment collected. Returning to sender. What does that mean? Contract with whom? Unknown, sir. But it gets worse. We sent a priority communication to Earth requesting an explanation. The response was an automated message saying civilization temporarily unavailable. Please try again later." Yerix felt his blood chill. "Show me." The main display switched to a view of Earth's solar system. The planet appeared normal, but something was wrong. The orbital stations that had surrounded Earth for decades were dark. The moon bases showed no activity. Even the asteroid mining operations in the outer system had gone silent. "We have tried raising them on all frequencies," the operator continued. "Every transmission gets the same automated response. It is as if the entire human civilization has put up an out-of-office message." Across the galaxy, military commanders and government officials were reaching the same disturbing conclusion. Humanity had not been conquered or destroyed. They had simply left. But where had they gone and why? Dr. Yelani of the Science Collective was studying the energy readings from the last known positions of human ships when she made a discovery that sent chills through her research team. "The energy signatures," she told her assistants, "they do not match any known propulsion or teleportation technology. It is as if the ships were never there at all." In the depths of space, automated sensors that had been tracking the Ghost Fleet for months suddenly showed empty readings. The sophisticated monitoring equipment that several governments had secretly deployed to study human technology registered nothing but background radiation where moments before there had been massive starships. On trade stations throughout the Outer Rim, the sudden absence of human patrols was immediately felt. Pirate attacks resumed within hours. Slave traders emerged from hiding. Criminal organizations that had been dormant for months began operations again. The Korvaxi Fleet Admiral Corax found himself in the strange position of having won a battle by default. His mission to capture the mining station had been successful, but he felt no satisfaction. The humans had simply decided to leave. They had not been defeated. They had not retreated in fear. They had completed whatever they had come to do and departed. As his fleet moved to occupy the now undefended mining operation, Corax reviewed the battle recordings. The human ships had been winning. Their technology was clearly superior. Yet they had stopped fighting and left the moment that strange message was broadcast. "Contract complete," he muttered to himself. But what contract? And who was the contractor? The implications were disturbing. The message suggested that humanity's activities across the galaxy had not been exploration or conquest. They had been working. But for whom? And what did it mean that their contract was now complete? In government chambers across the galaxy, emergency sessions were being called. Military fleets were being repositioned to fill the gaps left by human withdrawal. Trade routes that had been secure under human protection were now vulnerable. But the most unsettling aspect was the complete silence from Earth. No explanations, no negotiations, no demands. Just an automated message suggesting that an entire spacefaring civilization had temporarily closed for business. As the hours passed and no human ships appeared anywhere in known space, one thing became clear. The galaxy had just learned that they had been dependent on humanity for far more than anyone had realized. And now that humanity was gone, the careful balance that had been maintained was beginning to collapse. Detective scholar Vryn adjusted her analytical interface for the third time that morning. The Zelenari were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to process vast amounts of data and find patterns that other species missed. But the case of humanity's disappearance was challenging even her considerable abilities. She stood in the center of the Joint Task Force command room, surrounded by investigators from 12 different species. The Galactic Council had assembled the best minds available to answer one simple question. Where had humanity gone, and why? "Show me the financial data again," Vryn requested, her four eyes focusing on different displays simultaneously. Lieutenant Kex of the Hegemony Intelligence Division pulled up the economic analysis. "We traced every known human transaction for the past year. Trade agreements, resource purchases, technology exchanges. Everything appears normal until 3 days before the disappearance." The display showed a complex web of financial flows. Human organizations had been buying raw materials, selling manufactured goods and exchanging information just like any other civilization. But then something changed. Here, Kex pointed to a series of transactions. Large payments started flowing into human accounts from coordinates in intergalactic space. Not from any known civilization or trading post, from empty space beyond our galaxy. Dr. Thane of the Scientific Coalition leaned forward. "How large are we talking about?" "The equivalent of the combined gross domestic product of the hegemony core worlds. Per day, for 6 months." Silence fell over the room. No known civilization had that kind of wealth, especially not in the empty space between galaxies. Vryn processed the data, her mind making connections at superhuman speed. "Show me the battle analysis reports." Every engagement involving human forces. The displays changed to show tactical breakdowns of dozens of conflicts. In every case, the pattern was the same. Human forces would appear without warning, disable enemy vessels with minimal casualties, complete their objective, and depart. But there was something else. "Look at the target selection," Vryn said, highlighting specific data points. "Pirates, slavers, rogue military units, criminal organizations. But not random ones." These specific groups had been operating for years without interference from major governments. Why were they suddenly priority targets for humanity? Commander Zolt of the Merchant Guild pulled up additional records. "We noticed something similar in our shipping data. Human forces consistently protected trade routes that were problematic. Not the most profitable routes, not the most strategically important ones. The routes where bad things happened that governments chose to ignore." The pattern was becoming clearer. Humanity had not been randomly intervening in galactic affairs. They had been systematically cleaning up specific problems that the major powers had been unable or unwilling to address. "It's almost like they were following a list," Vryn murmured, "a very specific list of tasks." Dr. Elena Vasquez sat quietly in the corner of the room, hoping no one would notice her. As one of the few humans who had chosen to remain off Earth during the disappearance, she had become invaluable to the investigation. She also knew far more than she was comfortable admitting. "Dr. Vasquez," Vryn said suddenly, all four eyes focusing on the human scientist. "You have been unusually quiet during these proceedings. Is there something you would like to share?" Elena shifted uncomfortably. "I'm just trying to process all of this like everyone else. It's not easy learning that your entire species has vanished." But Vryn's analytical mind caught the micro-expressions that indicated deception. "Dr. Vasquez, you are the only human available to us. Your insights could be crucial. Please tell us what you know about Earth's recent activities." Elena took a deep breath. She had hoped to avoid this conversation, but it was becoming clear that the truth would come out eventually. "There are some things about Earth's government that aren't widely known outside our species." The room fell silent, every investigator focusing on her words. "About 15 years ago, Earth received a message from somewhere else, not another species in this galaxy, something calling itself Universal Maintenance Incorporated. They offered humanity a job. The investigators exchanged glances. This was the first concrete information they had received about humanity's mysterious activities. What kind of job? Vryn asked gently. Regional cleanup services. There are apparently many galaxies like ours, and they all require periodic maintenance. Problem resolution. Quality control. The entity that contacted us specializes in hiring local species to handle these tasks. Dr. Thane leaned forward. Why humanity? Why not one of the more advanced civilizations? Elena's expression grew troubled. According to the message, humanity scored highest on something they called problem resolution efficiency. We were offered a trial contract. If we performed well, we would be considered for permanent employment. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been working for an intergalactic organization that apparently managed multiple galaxies. Their Ghost Fleet operations had been job assignments. The payments, Vryn said, pieces falling into place. Those massive financial transfers were salary payments. Elena nodded reluctantly. Earth's government kept the arrangement secret. The technology upgrades we received as compensation were explained as breakthroughs in human research. The public never knew we were working for someone else. Commander Zolt pulled up more financial data. If these payments were salaries, then the amounts suggest humanity was being paid for industrial-scale operations. How many ships were actually involved?
More than anyone realized, Elena admitted.
The vessels you detected were just the visible portion. Most of the fleet operated in complete stealth. The job required maintaining what they called plausible deniability while ensuring efficiency targets were met. Lieutenant Keck suddenly looked up from his intelligence analysis. Dr. Vasquez, what happened 3 days ago? Why did humanity suddenly leave? Elena was quiet for a long moment before answering. We received a message that our trial period was complete. We had exceeded performance expectations and were being offered permanent employment. The message said, report to headquarters for orientation and permanent assignment. The room erupted in concerned discussions. If humanity had been hired as regional maintenance contractors, what did permanent employment mean? And who exactly was powerful enough to hire an entire spacefaring civilization? Vryn processed all the information, her analytical mind working through the implications. Dr. Vasquez, you said we received the message. Why did you not leave with the rest of humanity? Elena's face showed a mix of fear and determination. Because the message also included an option. Humans who preferred to remain in this galaxy could do so, but they would lose their employment benefits and technological support. I chose to stay. Why? Because I wanted to see what would happen next. The message mentioned that new management would be arriving soon to oversee this galactic region. I thought someone should be here to serve as a liaison. The investigators looked at each other with growing alarm. New management? What did that mean for the existing galactic civilizations? Dr. Thane voiced what everyone was thinking. Dr. Vasquez, are you saying that humanity's disappearance is just the beginning? That this Universal Maintenance Incorporated is planning to take direct control of our galaxy? Elena shook her head. Not direct control, management, there's a difference. But I don't know what that means in practical terms. Vryn stood up, her mind racing through the possibilities. The mystery of humanity's disappearance had been solved, but it had revealed something far more disturbing. The galaxy was apparently part of a much larger organization, and humanity had just been promoted from temporary contractors to permanent employees. We need to prepare a report for the Galactic Council immediately, she announced. They need to know that humanity's disappearance was not an ending, but a transition, and we need to prepare for whatever comes next. As the investigators began compiling their findings, Elena watched them with a mixture of sympathy and apprehension. They still didn't understand the full scope of what was coming. The message she had received mentioned that humanity's successful completion of their trial contract meant they would be returning with full authority to implement permanent solutions to galactic management issues. The galaxy was about to learn that their problems with mysterious human interventions had been nothing compared to what was coming next. Admiral Korax stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with growing satisfaction. The mining station his fleet had captured 3 weeks ago was proving to be even more valuable than expected. With the humans gone, the Korvaxi Empire was free to expand their territory without interference. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving distress signals from our forward scouts in the Epsilon sector. They report heavy casualties from unknown attackers. Korax frowned. Unknown attackers? Specify. They describe automated defense systems, sir. Weapons platforms that appeared from nowhere and opened fire without warning. The survivors say the technology is unlike anything they have encountered. Similar reports were coming in from across the galaxy. With humanity's withdrawal, the carefully maintained balance of power had collapsed overnight. Criminal organizations that had been suppressed were emerging from hiding. Pirate fleets that had been scattered were reforming, and territorial disputes that had been mysteriously resolved were flaring back to life. But something else was happening. Military forces that tried to expand into territories the humans had been patrolling were meeting unexpected resistance. In the Hegemony Command Center, Admiral Zexathera studied intelligence reports with growing concern. How many fleets have we lost contact with in the past week? 17, Admiral, her aide reported. All were investigating areas where human forces had been active. The last transmissions mentioned encountering defensive systems that should not exist. The pattern was becoming clear across the galaxy. Regions that had been under human protection were not as abandoned as they appeared. Hidden defense networks were activating the moment non-human forces approached. These systems were not attacking civilian populations or peaceful vessels. They were specifically targeting military expansion and criminal activity. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been monitoring these developments from the research station where she remained. As the only human still in the galaxy, she had become an unwilling expert on her species' true activities. The calls for information were constant. Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Zexathara's voice came through the communication system. We need answers. Our fleets are being destroyed by weapons that seem to emerge from empty space. Are these human defense systems? Elena looked at the intelligence data being transmitted to her station. The descriptions matched technologies she had heard discussed in classified briefings, but had never fully understood. Admiral, she replied carefully, what I am about to tell you may be difficult to accept. The human operations in your territories were not just military patrols. They were installation and maintenance of permanent infrastructure. The connection fell silent for a moment before Zexathera responded. What kind of infrastructure? Automated management systems. The humans were not just stopping criminal activity. They were establishing permanent solutions to prevent it from returning. Every area they patrolled now has hidden systems that will continue their work indefinitely. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not been providing temporary security services. They had been installing permanent galactic management infrastructure. In the Korvaxi Empire, Admiral Korax was learning this lesson the hard way. His expansion into human-protected territories had started successfully. But now his fleets were encountering resistance that defied explanation. Sir, his tactical officer reported during their latest engagement, the enemy weapons platforms are not just defended. They are learning. Each attack we make, they adapt their responses. It is as if they are getting smarter during the battle. The platforms they were fighting looked like nothing in any database, sleek constructions that seemed to bend light around themselves, armed with weapons that could disable ships without destroying them. But the most disturbing aspect was their behavior. They are not trying to kill us, Korax realized as he watched the tactical display. They are herding us away from this system. His fleet was being systematically pushed back from the territories they had tried to claim. Every time they attempted to advance, the automated systems would appear and force them to retreat. But casualties were minimal. It was as if the systems were designed to discourage expansion rather than destroy intruders. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The Merchant Guild discovered that trade routes the humans had protected were now patrolled by automated systems that ensured safe passage for legitimate merchants while intercepting smugglers and pirates, criminal. Organizations that had emerged from hiding after humanity's departure found themselves facing opposition. That never slept, never negotiated, and never gave up. Pirate bases that had been dormant for months suddenly found themselves under attack by weapons platforms that appeared from nowhere. Dr. Yelani of the Science Collective was studying the technology behind these automated systems when she made a disturbing discovery. The energy signatures, she told her research team, they are not constant. They are growing stronger. The automated systems were not just maintaining existing capabilities. They were expanding, learning, becoming more sophisticated with each engagement. Elena received an urgent communication from the Galactic Council requesting her immediate testimony. When she arrived at the council chambers, she found representatives from every major power looking haggard and worried. Dr. Vasquez, Elder Morix began, "Our civilizations are facing a crisis. These automated systems are preventing normal expansion and territorial adjustments. Some of our member species are claiming that humanity has effectively occupied the entire galaxy through technological means." Elena looked around the chamber at the worried faces. "Honored delegates, what you are experiencing is the implementation of the management infrastructure that humanity was contracted to install. These systems are not occupying your territories. They are maintaining order." "Whose order?" demanded Councillor Vex. "We did not agree to have our activities monitored and controlled by automated systems." "The Order of Universal Maintenance Incorporated," Elena replied. "Humanity was hired to resolve persistent galactic management issues, criminal activity, territorial conflicts, resource disputes that had been ongoing for centuries. The solution was to install permanent systems that would prevent these problems from recurring." The chamber erupted in angry discussions. Representatives realized that humanity had not just been intervening in conflicts. They had been reshaping the galaxy's entire power structure. Admiral Zexathara activated a holographic display showing the distribution of automated systems across known space. "Dr. Vasquez, according to our analysis, these systems now control access to every major trade route, resource deposit, and strategic location in the galaxy." "Is this accurate?" Elena studied the display and nodded reluctantly. The contract required comprehensive coverage to ensure effectiveness. Half measures were not acceptable to the employers. "And what happens when humanity returns?" Elder Morix asked. Elena was quiet for a moment before answering. "When humanity returns, they will not be contractors anymore. They will be permanent management. These automated systems will report to them, and they will have full authority to implement whatever solutions they determine are necessary." The weight of her words settled over the assembly. The galaxy's major powers were realizing that their traditional ways of operating were about to become obsolete. The age of unregulated expansion, territorial conflicts, and ignored criminal activity was ending. Whether the galaxy's civilizations were ready or not, they were about to discover what it meant to live under professional management, and humanity, the species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers, was about to return as their new supervisors. In the depths of space, the automated systems continued their work, monitoring, learning, and preparing for the return of their creators. The galaxy was being systematically reorganized, and there was nothing the existing powers could do to stop it. The reckoning had begun, and humanity had not even returned yet. The space above the Galactic Council headquarters shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then reality seemed to fold in on itself and 3 ships materialized from nothing. But these were not the crude, functional vessels that had comprised humanity's ghost fleet. These ships were magnificent. Each vessel was easily the size of a hegemony dreadnought. But their design transcended anything the galaxy had ever seen. Smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, caught and reflected light in ways that hurt to look at directly. The ships did not move through space so much as space seemed to rearrange itself around them. On the bridge of the lead vessel, Captain Sarah Chen stood before a viewport that showed the entire galaxy spread out below them like a 3-dimensional map. She wore a uniform that seemed to be cut from the fabric of space itself, with insignia that shifted and changed when viewed directly. "Communications," she said, her voice carrying an authority that had not been there 6 months ago. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council. All frequencies, all languages, universal broadcast." The response was immediate. Emergency sessions were called on every world. Military fleets scrambled to respond to the arrival, but their sensors could barely detect the human ships. When they tried to lock weapons on the vessels, their targeting system simply refused to function. Admiral Zexathara stood in the council chamber as representatives filed in with unprecedented speed. The 3 human ships hung in space above them, visible through the chamber's transparent dome, impossible to ignore. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Vessel Efficiency," the transmission began. Chen's image appeared on every screen in the chamber, but there was something different about her. She looked older, wiser, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen the universe from perspectives no other human had experienced. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," Chen continued, I bring greetings from Universal Maintenance Incorporated and an important announcement regarding the future administration of this galactic region. The chamber was dead silent. Even the translation system seemed to pause in respectful attention. Humanity has successfully completed our probationary period as regional contractors. Our performance exceeded all expectations, and we have been offered permanent employment as regional management for Galactic Sector 7719, commonly known to you as the Milky Way Galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez, watching from her research station, felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. The moment she had been dreading and anticipating had finally arrived. Effective immediately, Chen announced, this galaxy has been assigned to our management district. We are authorized to implement comprehensive solutions to persistent administrative challenges, including but not limited to territorial conflicts, resource allocation disputes, criminal activity, and general peacekeeping operations. Counselor Vex found his voice first. Captain Chen, by whose authority do you claim jurisdiction over sovereign galactic governments? Chen's expression did not change, but something in the air around her seemed to shift. When she spoke, her words carried weight that seemed to bend reality itself. By the authority of Universal Maintenance Incorporated, the entity responsible for operational oversight of 47,000 galaxies in this dimensional cluster, humanity has been selected as your regional management team based on our demonstrated ability to solve problems efficiently and permanently. The numbers were staggering. 47,000 galaxies. The scope of the organization that had hired humanity was beyond anything the Council had imagined. We understand this transition may be challenging, Chen continued, and we are prepared to offer your civilizations a choice. You may accept integration into the Universal Maintenance System as junior partners, with access to advanced technologies and expanded opportunities for growth and development. Elder Morix leaned forward. And the alternative? Chen's expression became slightly less diplomatic. Species that choose not to integrate will be classified as ongoing maintenance issues to be resolved through standard operational procedures. The threat was politely stated but absolutely clear. Work with humanity's new management structure, or be managed against your will. Admiral Zexa Thara activated her communication system. Captain Chen, what exactly does integration entail? Excellent question, Admiral. Integration involves accepting humanity as the regional management authority for this galaxy. Your existing governments will maintain local autonomy, but major policy decisions, territorial expansions, and resource allocation will require our approval. Criminal activity will be subject to immediate resolution by our automated enforcement systems. The automated systems. Every delegate remembered the reports of ships and fleets being turned away from territories they had tried to claim. Now they understood what they had been experiencing. In return, Chen continued, integrated species will receive access to the Universal Maintenance Technology Database, expanded trade opportunities with other managed galaxies, and protection from external threats you are not currently aware of. Dr. Yelani of the Science Collective spoke up. External threats? For the first time, Chen's expression showed something other than professional confidence. Dr. Yelani, this galaxy exists in a universe far more complex and dangerous than you currently understand. There are entities and forces that require active management to prevent catastrophic outcomes. Humanity's appointment as your regional managers is not just about local peacekeeping. It is about protecting this entire galactic region from threats that could eliminate all life within it. The implications were sobering. Humanity had not just been hired to manage local conflicts. They were part of a universal defense network protecting against dangers the galaxy's civilizations had never even imagined. Counselor Brath of the Merchant Guild asked the question many were thinking. What guarantees do we have that humanity will govern fairly? How do we know you will not simply impose your will upon us? Chen smiled for the first time during the transmission. Counselor Brath, our employment contract includes performance metrics and regular evaluations by our supervisors. If we fail to maintain appropriate standards of governance, we will be replaced by a different species. Our success depends on your civilizations thriving under our management. The answer revealed something important. Humanity's authority was not absolute. They answered to higher powers and could be removed if they performed poorly. We are offering a 30-day consultation period, Chen announced. Representatives from each major government may visit our ships to review the integration protocols and ask questions. At the end of this period, we will need formal responses from all major powers. Elder Morik stood slowly, and if some choose not to integrate? Chen's expression became professionally neutral again. Then they will discover why Universal Maintenance Incorporated selected humanity for this position. Our species has a unique talent for solving problems permanently. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Through the transparent dome above them, the 3 human vessels hung in space like harbingers of a new age. Dr. Elena Vasquez received a personal communication shortly after the general broadcast ended. It was from Captain Chen, requesting that she serve as liaison between the old Galactic Order and the new management structure. Elena, Chen's message said, you chose to stay and observe. Now we need you to help with the transition. Humanity's return is just the beginning. We have work to do. As Elena prepared to leave her research station and join humanity's management team, she looked out at the stars and wondered what other surprises the universe held. Humanity had gone from primitive newcomers to galactic managers in less than a century. But the most remarkable thing was that this was apparently normal for Universal Maintenance Incorporated. Somewhere in the vast universe, there were 46,999 other galaxies being managed by species that had been promoted from local contractors to regional management. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to live in a professionally managed universe. And humanity, despite their recent arrival on the galactic stage, had just become the species in charge of making sure everything ran smoothly. The age of chaos was ending. The age of efficient management had begun. Whether the galaxy's civilizations were ready or not, they were about to discover what happened when humans were put in charge of keeping the peace permanently.